You've heard from the panel this morning. Now it's time for you to ask any questions or make any comments. You see the microphones coming out. Can I get some assistance to help close the doors, please? So as mentioned yesterday, I had to cut off two speakers that were at the microphone. One couldn't make it back today. Treaty Commissioner Culbertson, are you with us yet today? I did commit to provide you. You're good? Okay, thank you. So the microphones are open. Why did it go so quiet when I said the microphones are open? We heard some questions yesterday around OCAP and whatnot. I encourage you to come up and ask our esteemed panel presenter, Erin. Where did we go?
It's playing hard to get.
Playing hard to get. If it's anything specific to OCAP, it sounds like Erin would have the response to that. Any questions, comments, or remarks to our youth that did such an amazing job before the break? To my right, please.
That topic is very dry for me. My sister over there, she says, "Oh, I love that presentation." That's her thing, not mine. But I thought, if you want to make that less dry for people like me, throw in a couple of pictures or something, you know, examples of what that looks like. Thanks.
Thank you. But Aaron did announce himself as a researcher as he started his presentation. That probably explains a good chunk of it. I'm not sure if Aaron's in the room yet. If not, we'll certainly pass that on to him. I guess we should have primed you up before the break to get ready to provide comments or questions. And maybe Jennifer Wood, if you could email that one-pager to Julie, and Julie or anybody in the staff can share it with the folks that are on the webcast so that they have it online as well. Are we good? I'm not sure if you heard the one comment, Aaron, requesting pictures in your deck. That's the only comment we've heard so far. Does it comment about making your deck a little bit less dry by having some pictures? Said in a fun way.
Okay. It could be in a not fun way.
Second last call. Any questions or comments? To my right, please.
Hello, my name is Jackie Bouvier, and I'm a survivor, Treaty 10, Northwest Saskatchewan, Beauval Indian Residential School. My mom attended the residential school, and so did my grandmother. You talked about, this is for who just had the, I agree, the dry. I'm not used to, I call it government talk. But I'm Métis. My father was Métis, and my mother was Dene and Cree. Nothing is spoken about Métis. Where do people get the data, or who's working on the data as a nonprofit under the Métis?
To the techies, could you turn on portable mic number 4, please?
Okay, this is on. Thank you, Jacqueline, for that question. I don't know if I'm super well placed to answer it. I mean, FNIGC, as a national organization that works for First Nations, we've developed the OCAP principles, or we haven't developed them, we stewarded them, and we were very aware that Métis and Inuit nations are developing their own protocols around that. It gets you know, you talk about dry government talk. Well, and I tried to kind of give a heads up maybe a little bit in my presentation that I was going to be talking about the corridors and the offices and the hallways where this work sometimes happens, all too often, maybe in an isolated bureaucratic way. The institutions, the organizations that people are building are, in terms of Métis, there's the Métis National Council, there's the Métis provincial bodies, there's the Rupert's Land Institute. I don't know who holds that data or who is emerging as the main resource. Perhaps there are other people in this room who are more familiar with that.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
To my left.
Hi, my name is Karen Ng. I work as the archivist and the librarian for the Squamish Nation. I'm not Indigenous. I was born in Hong Kong, and so I come to this work and to the Squamish Nation very much as a cultural outsider. Thank you, all three of you, for your presentations. I guess as an information professional, it wasn't dry to me, it was very interesting. The archives and library profession is, it's an overwhelmingly white and colonial profession. And I guess the comment that I really wanted to say, and I guess also a question that I had, first phrasing this as a comment, is I would really encourage youth, especially Indigenous youth, to get involved in archives and libraries and information work. There's so much cultural context that I can never have it in my work, and I lean really heavily on our language teachers and the cultural workers, because that's just the only way that we can really make the Squamish archives more accessible and more appropriately described for the Squamish people. My question is if you have any ideas on how to really encourage youth to get involved in the profession. I think sometimes youth don't know that this is a profession that they can get involved in and excited about. And so my coworkers and I are always really trying to find ways, funding and opportunities to get youth involved and to sustain that involvement so that they can come and take over my job. Because I think the profession really is very colonial, very white, and it needs to change. And I think part of it starts with youth to create that long-lasting change. And so thank you very much for all your work and your words. If you have any ideas on just, or any thoughts on just more youth involvement in kind of the archives, library, information space, yeah, I would love to hear it. And again, yeah, thank you.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you. Whatever number the other portable mic is, please. Mm-hmm.
I would say if you want more youth involvement in this type of work, you could create opportunities for them to be able to job shadow you, to see what you do, to be able to have those kinds of conversations with elders so they can connect the cultural knowledge that they have with the more kind of colonial terminology used in archives and that type of work. When different schools and universities attend like high schools and they have those like job fairs or kind of the career fairs, or they show the different programs that can be offered at universities and colleges, I encourage you to set up a booth there too. And you had mentioned that you feel maybe youth aren't in this field right now because they don't realize that it is an opportunity for them. So make your presence more known, help, I guess, empower them to see themselves in those spaces. I know I learned a lot in my time working with archives, and it's definitely something I feel I am considering continuing to pursue. And I feel like there are a lot of other youth too that could benefit from having access to knowledge like that at their fingertips. As I'd mentioned, there is, the difficult information to read, but the positives, the stories, the interviews you read about elders, I feel like a lot of youth would be very interested in that. So that's some of my thoughts.
I just wanted to put the Association of Canadian Archivists on the spot a little bit. I've spoken to them a few times about archivist training, and they really would like to support the development of archival training and practice outside of the higher education world. So right now, to be accredited, you sort of need a master's degree, and there's only a few schools that offer them. And I know they're working at wanting to build models of training that are much more closely tied to what communities actually want from archives and expect from archives. I don't know how well they're doing on that front, but I would maybe light a fire under them and ask them how that's going.
And another hat I wear, I'm responsible for First Nations lifelong learning in British Columbia. In 2011, the INAC, it was called back then, worked with HRSDC and did a whole bunch of promotion for Aboriginal library and archives. So they added a whole bunch of bursaries to encourage particularly younger people to take it on. And in BC, I know the uptake wasn't too bad. I'm not sure what it was like in other regions, but that was a one-time deal. They haven't really done anything to encourage in a significant way. So certainly if there's interest, we could push that politically through ISC and HRSD to revisit that. I seen somebody to my right.
Good morning. My question is for the lady in orange. I forgot your name. I'm sorry. I'm not very good with names. But my name is Stephen Lands, and I'm a representative of Grassy Narrows search team. I'm co-coordinator, and it's pretty well part two for this lady who had a question. And maybe OSI could also answer my question. It's a question of capital. If we can get some funding to have one liaison youth work with us to show the work that we're doing, and have these liaisons travel with us to help the youth of our nation understand the work that we're doing and how it affects them. Is there any protocols or any ways that I could be shown to help our young people understand what we went through as a survivor of McIntosh Residential School and their grandpa, great-grandpa, and great-grannies and all that?
When it comes to protocols, I would definitely turn to elders and knowledge keepers in your community to get some of their advice on how to go about that in the best way for your people. When it comes to connecting with youth, I know one thing that got me, one thing I kind of brought up time and time again in my speech there was the power of connection and stories. So creating a space where everyone can come together, a safe space for everyone, where you can share those stories and connect with each other. Because I feel like a lot of youth, maybe they're still coming to realize the ways they had been impacted, or maybe in my case, their family doesn't really talk about the stories or the things that have happened to them. So like an example could be hosting a small event where you can come together with tea, with coffee, with snacks, and just create that kind of open space for that kind of dialogue to happen or those stories to be shared. I hope that is helpful.
Yeah, that would start to help. I will look into that when I get back to my nation. But what I do want to do is I really want to acknowledge you, and everybody, please help me acknowledge them with a standing ovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. To my left.
Ublami, Atira, Bunny Revelat, Kuvia Huktunga, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish nations. Good morning. My Inuvialuit name is Bunny Reveluk. My English name is Stephanie Papik. My dad is Wilbert Papik, and I'm here with my Achungs, Lillian and Val and Donna. And I wanted to share, for 6.5 years, I was the program lead for the Indigenous Youth Internship Program. So just wanted to kind of answer or provide some answers to the two previous questions based on that time in that role, which the Indigenous Youth Internship Program is the leadership development program with the province in BC and the First Nation Leadership Council. And in terms of recruiting youth, what I found over the years is working with the post-secondary Indigenous coordinators to host lunches for the Indigenous students at the post-secondary institution. We'd usually have like a cake or something, and I'd have it written like, "We believe in you." And so just like having that time, and we do a presentation and have that time for the one-on-one conversations. So I found that really helpful. And then also with the internship program, which is for BC, in the summer, the interns can do summer placements with Indigenous organizations. So if your organization is based in BC, you could apply to host an intern for June, July, and August. It's not a long time, but it is some time, and often it can just help to find those youth, give them that experience, and get them in the door. And usually the call for proposals to host an intern comes out this month. So if you just Google Indigenous Youth Internship Program, you can look and see for that call of proposals. So I wanted to share that, and also just raising my hands to the speakers. So much of what you shared today really resonated with me, especially the breath work. So thank you.
Thank you. Stay to my left.
Thank you, Kira Delarond, Red River Métis. I just wanted to also comment on the question that came to the floor, but then also acknowledge the presentations today. In our community, I had been the youth representative for the Red River Métis government for 2.5 years, and one of the biggest things that we pushed for is bringing back our youth elder gatherings. So we had youth elder gatherings that took place in the 90s, and then through time and through changes, those gatherings had stopped for a number of years. So in 2018, we pushed really hard to bring the youth elder gatherings back. And what we found was we brought elders and survivors from all of our communities, and we also brought youth ages 13 to 29 from all different communities in Manitoba. We brought them all together to have conversations, but we also exchanged traditional teachings. So we had harvesting workshops, beading workshops. One of the things that I was the most proud of is I spent 9 hours canning and making jam. So it's those protocols and teachings as well that we need to transfer, as well as the stories that you all have. So I just wanted to acknowledge that people have a misconception that the youth aren't engaged anymore, or that we are taking on our own paths. And I think that's a misconception, but we feel everything in the work that you have all done. So we are trying to champion ourselves to continue on all of your legacy and all the work that everyone in our nations and our communities have done for years before us. However, now that has turned into academic institutions at a post-secondary level, and it is barriers that a lot of our youth are still challenging with. Once we get into those institutions, sometimes our identity is once again stripped from us because we are conforming into a pan-Indigenous approach rather than being our true distinct selves. So I think what I would share with you all in the room, with all of your knowledge and all of the experiences that you have, is take a look to the youth that aren't also going through that academic path, because they're trying to learn in their own ways, but they're trying to avoid those institutions. So if we turn to the post-secondary institutions as a way to engage with our Indigenous young people, we're really limiting the ones who are still community-based and grassroots-based. So I just wanted to comment that, and thank you all again.
Thank you. To my right.
Good afternoon. My name is Sal Comet. That name comes from Snitnawis. My grandmother gave that to me. My mom is from Nanaimo. My dad is from Nanaimo. My grandmother's from Cooper. And my grandfather's from Rivers Inlet. My English name is John. A residential school survivor. I'm also, if you heard of the Blackwater case, I'm one of the plaintiffs. The reason I'm standing here is to lift you up. Um, you're part of a prophecy. When I was young, I used to go to conferences with my parents. And one of the things that I heard at the conference is that it's going to take 4 generations to heal. And when I heard that, I thought to myself, I'm going to see some changes. And the changes that I see are all around me. Our young people are getting educated. And some of our leaders have said that education is going to be our weapon. And for you to be carrying yourself and educating yourself makes my heart happy, because the elders that had made that prophecy, it's coming alive. It's been alive for a while. We're living in a complicated world right now. We have to live the Western way, but also hang on to our identity. And never forget where you come from, because that's your strength. Family is the foundation of who we are. You've given direction. Take it in your heart and believe it in your soul. You've come this far. Things will start to unfold and you will find direction in your life. It makes my heart happy to know that you're following your heart. Haichka.
HKCM. Any other questions or comments? To my right again, please.
Simdigat, Sigamanak, Gubla Wilson, all the men, the women, and the children. When I heard you guys speaking this morning, I too felt that. And to hear you share what you shared. My elders has spoken to me how to find my Otsen, my spirit within. And when I hear you, you speak with inspiration. You speak with your uplifting. And everything that you know you're coming through, you breathe in. That's your spirit. Everything quiets down because your spirit is speaking to other spirits. And I'm thankful for hearing you guys this morning. Amia.
Haichka, thank you. Amber?
Elated. Good morning, everyone. Just a question for you, Aaron. You kind of touched on this briefly in your presentation around there's no, the legislative barriers with there not being a recognition of a kind of a collective right to Indigenous information. And I think that's something that, you know, as we, from the Stoller Research and Resource Management Center and other places, when we're going out and we're meeting with archives and we're trying to get access to information, you know, yes, there's this, everyone, the people are very willing, you know, and interested in helping us, but there are stumbling blocks around having access to records because of that, the private nature of the information that's in there. And so just wondering if you had some thoughts around, like, what are the conversations that we need to have to start shifting to to having a shift towards legislative change that would allow us to have more easier access to, as you say, all those federal government databases and other sources of data that are out there. So just interested in hearing a bit more about that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lifelong, multiple generational fight. I think, I mean, there's always opportunities that come by, and we make the most of them. Right now, I know there's a lot of energy being put into how Canada's commitments to UNDRIP can be leveraged, and Canada can be made accountable to the commitments that they're making. One of the things that we're doing right now at FNIGC is reviewing existing Canadian legislature for the areas where it impinges on Indigenous data sovereignty, and not providing recommendations exactly on how it should be changed, because to be very blunt, that's a political advocacy that we don't do, as we're not rights holders. We're advisors, technicians. So we can identify the gaps. And one of the key areas is in privacy legislation. But it's not just the Privacy Act, it's the Library and Archives Act, and including other recent or pending legislation like PIPEDA, the Personal Information and Electronics, I can't remember the exact acronym. So there's hope there that legislative amendments can be made so that Canada can meet its commitments to the UNDA, where it has to align its legislation with its commitments to advancing self-determination. That's pretty high level. That's federal legislation. I think, and that can be daunting for people to go, well, how do I participate in that work? That's not a tool I can use in my own archive. I kind of think there's another way to burrow in, and it's a little bit like thinking like a hacker. And I'm kind of out of my league here when it comes to the technical end, but I think there's enormous room for people to look at data systems that require the minimal amount of finance, that require, I think, a space to experiment. And that's such a huge challenge. And we see that at this sort of national FNIGC level, and I'm sure it's repeated everywhere. We're not ever allowed to fail or make mistakes. We're only allowed to respond, or to deliver a service. And when it comes to data sciences, and I say this to any funders out there or federal government agencies, the space to make things up and create things on our own and make mistakes and experiment is so vital. And at that level of record keeping and archival access, to be able to say, we are going to meet standards of care because we're going to create the standards of care designed for our community, and not try to meet some generic standard that's impossible to achieve. So I guess on the legislative level, there's action taking place, but I want to hear the tech sector, the not-for-profit sector, that innovation sector, that on-the-ground hacker sector talk to people like your Stolo Community Archive and others.
Amber, if I could add quickly to that, some of the tools that we leverage here in BC is the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples in 1996, where there's commentary in there that says data is political. So anytime we're talking about data with the province of BC or the federal government, because it's political, it's got to be dealt with on a government-to-government basis. We haven't delved into legislation or policy in a significant way, but it allows us to occupy space that government typically wouldn't occupy. And now the nature of the beast federally is that when it comes to federal legislation or relations between 91 and 92 authorities, the federal government parliament tends not to do anything without the support of the what they call the NIOs, the Assembly of First Nations, Métis Nation Canada, and the ITK. So anytime we're pushing something federally, we have to go get a resolution and then negotiate our way. But even then, it's hard to pan-Aboriginalize ourselves, pan-First Nations ourselves across the country. So we try to move the legislative agenda federally, but accommodate regional differences. So really they go hand in hand. There's federal legislative space, that recognizes what you want to do within your provinces, territories, treaties, nations, those kind of things. So I really encourage you not to pan-Aboriginalize the process. We're too distinct, we're too different. Similar and related rights, but we're different. So that's where the distinctions-based approach comes in. Phyllis, to my right.
Phyllis Webstad, Kennew Creek Dog Creek First Nation, about 7 hours north in the Secwepemc or Shuswap territory. Third generation survivor. I went for 1 year at the St. Joseph Indian Residential School just outside of Williams Lake in 1973-74. Sitting here, I have 3 thoughts that come to mind. And when I do my presentations across Canada, not so much now, but in the beginning to high schools and to elementary before the pandemic, that's mainly what I did. And I seen firsthand that our elementary and high schools across Canada are learning about what happened to us, and they're going to be the ones to make the change. And with Megan and Vanessa, it gets me emotional to hear you. Both of you are just so brilliant. And Megan, I was waiting for you to say you were in grade 11 or maybe grade 12 or something. But it's just amazing. And to be doing what you're doing, the both of you, and to be able to speak the way you do. Us survivors didn't grow up to be who we were meant to be. When I was your age, I didn't even know who I was, what my opinions were, what I thought. And I was a mother. Had my son in grade 8 when I was 13. So to see you, it just gives me great hope. And when I speak to, especially when survivors are in the room, I say that our future is in good hands, and you're evidence of that. We've seen that evidence today with both of you. So I thank you both for doing the work that you're doing. And my oldest, I have one son. I never did have any more children. My grandson is graduating. He's 18. And he has some intergenerational effects. But my grandchildren are the first in 5 generations to be raised by their mother and their father. Granny, Mom, me, and my son didn't have that. So I have great hopes for my grandchildren that they can be like you and to be able to articulate yourselves and get educated and to be able to help us. So my great-grandmother brought my granny to the mission in 1925 on the back of a horse so that her youngest could learn how to read and write so that they could help them. So education is very, very important, and like Marie Sinclair says, it's education that got us into this mess. It's education that's going to get us out. So 2026 in Williams Lake will be the first graduating class that has had residential school curriculum for the full 13 years, so 12 plus kindergarten. So we at the Orange Shirt Society are going to make a big deal out of that. We're going to be, we don't have quite their plan yet, but it's going to be loud and proud. Another thing that's come for me personally out of being here is I have something a document that I've been wishing for that I might. It's in my grasp now, and I hope that I can find it. Because when I first started telling my story, teachers would contact me and say, the children are asking, what happened to your mom? How come you don't talk about her? What about your dad? And I didn't know what to tell them. I wouldn't answer their emails. So finally, when we were evacuated in 2017, I picked up Mom. We were going to go have one of those free meals they offered for us evacuees. And I thought, I'm going to ask her. So I told her, Mom, the kids are asking, how come I don't talk about you? Because I lived with Granny and then I lived with my aunt. I never lived with my mom. And she just cried and she told me the story for the first time, and this was only 2017. But what she said was when she had me, she was 20. The Indian agent gave her a letter and told her she had to leave the reserve. I was 3 months old. Forced abandonment, I just learned that word not long ago. And I've always wanted to find that letter that was sent to Mom by that Indian agent. And I think it was a part of the 60s scoop and the thinking. They realized that residential schools didn't kill us like they wanted. So they had to come up with another harebrained scheme to try to finish us off. And so I was left with Granny. Anyway, with Cernak, I thought, I'm gonna find that guy that's on here, and I found him yesterday. And so I have his email, and maybe if that Indian agent kept a copy, there should be a copy of it in Cernak somewhere, so that I hope to include that in my book that I'm writing. So that's a big takeaway for me for being here. And I was imagining this morning showing Mom that letter. And that would be healing for both of us to talk about, because Mom said she just cried. And she ripped up that letter. I was born in 67, 3 months old. She had to leave me. She didn't have a choice. What the Indian agent said, you did or you went to jail. Her and a bunch of others had to leave. So the reserve was older people and children. And Mom wasn't asking for welfare, but that was around the time where, it was becoming about the money. And the last thing I just wanted to say that being here this weekend or this few days is going to help me with is documents that I've been given. People in the Williams Lake area have given me stuff, thinking with the work that I do, and one of the things that I've received is a wooden framed print. The artist is Bishop O'Regan, and he painted a young boy, a Chilcotin boy. And I was gonna give it to the family, but I wanted to preserve it somehow, so someone said, well, make a replica. That never occurred to me, but it's in my office. I turned it around because the little boy, it looks like he's following me in my office, wherever, like his eyes. So somebody said his spirit is there. So, and there's other pictures and other documents that it's easy to just put them away and forget about them and get busy. So I am renewed in my resolve to have these documents out there and of use, and there's other things that I've been given pictures, and I even got a newsletter from St. Joseph's, the mission from 1954-55, listing all of the staff. So I don't know if anybody needs that kind of information. I have it. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, and I'm so glad of being here. And I too think like the data is like dry, sorry, and with pictures and stuff. But this is I think of it in the way that, okay, what do I need? What do people need? And I have a book with children's stories in it. And I want each child, like that was done at the mission, their families to be able to access that. And it's sitting in my office. So, so Cooksjam, thank you for having this conference. And it's nice to be out and about. So Cooksjam, thank you.
Cooksjam, Phyllis? And just quickly, when Phyllis mentioned the curriculum, I'm not sure how it is and where it is that you come from, but the curriculum Phyllis referenced is BC-wide, made available for public schools, private schools, and their 130 First Nation schools on reserve. And we find that the non-Aboriginal teachers are challenged and they're really scared to actually try to teach the curriculum. So the last 2 weeks of August, we bring those teachers together and we have a teacher resource guide that we take them through to educate the ignorant and unknown non-Indigenous teachers and how to teach the IRS curriculum. We find that is helpful as well. Mike, to my right.
Good morning, everyone. In our language, we would say, Ulakut, ino katika, ino luta, kikutuina kanok, nakingakalok pata, ino nagakaltiko, umayut. Human beings, we are all human beings. That's what we say in our language to everyone, no matter where you come from. You are Inuk. So when I first heard the phrase, we are all related, I thought about that. We are all Inuit. We are all people. We are one nation in this land when we get together. I come from land and ice, and not many times we have the opportunity to voice who we are as Inuit. So I got up the courage to come up here. I'm not saying that I represent all Inuit. I'm just representing me and my family and my relatives who are Inuit. I would like to honor the young people who spoke. I think that's a very courageous way to represent your friends and family and relatives as youth. Because when I was your age, we were very shy and we didn't speak publicly. We hardly spoke to our elders out of respect. But you're very courageous. I honor you in my way. And for the man from OCAP, I've heard of that phrase many, many times because I belong to a research group in Manitoba. They're doing research on Inuit health. And I think sometimes, I used to think, I'm not very fond of acronyms. I don't think anybody is, except for the government. They like using those acronyms to confuse us or just to say that word because they don't have anything else to say. That's my thought. I don't know how true it is in the world where they are. Thank you. Anyways, the other day when my sister friend, Dr. Lavinia Brown, when she led the Kulak for this gathering to start, I was thinking that it's the light, the fire that tells the children, wherever they are, spirit world or here, that we have this light that they could go to tell them that we are here. They're not alone. That's the way I see that light. When Phil Fontaine was on TV on the national news, and he spoke of his experience in residential school, that was the very, very first time we heard anyone that spoke of our experience. Like, he opened that door so wide, some of us didn't know how to deal with our feelings. We didn't know where to go, what to do. And to have a gathering like this where you have health support system here, that's very, very big for us survivors, because they understand, they know what to do if we have a breakdown. In the early days, when Phil Fontaine first expressed his feelings about it, we didn't have that system in place. We had psychologists, psychiatrists who never even set foot on our land, who said that they were there to help us, but they didn't know about us. So to have that in place it's a great, great way to bring the people together and to make us feel at home and comfortable. That's very, very important to the survivors and to our families, because very often we don't know which way to turn or go, or we have all these 1-800 numbers, but some of us that telephone, even the cell phone, is very heavy. And sometimes our fingers are too big. They press 2 or 3 numbers that, we just can't get through. But to have an actual person there to listen to us is so big. It feels so welcoming for us. So the youth, I want to say that the residential schools and the day schools and 60 Scoop and CFS, they try to take that spirit away from us. But somehow, we're God's children, we're Creator's children. That power helped us to keep that spirit inside. And now we have our system in place. And I'm saying to OCAP, now I'm using the acronym. Listen to us. We have laws, we have systems in place. We don't always have to follow the government directives. We have our own. We have our own protocols that are in line with who we are. We have been studied to death. We have filled out surveys many, many times over that could fill this place and the other tower. It's enormous information that's been gathered about who we are, but not our spirit. I'm glad they didn't take our spirit. I'm so happy about that, because today we can showcase Phyllis's story in the way we dress, with the color orange, and her shirt in remembrance. I'm honored for your ears. Thank you for listening and for honoring Inuit in your work. Kuya na make.
Aichka, thank you. Any response at all?
Thank you so much for speaking on behalf of Inuit. That means a lot to your ancestors, and that means a lot to us. I want to honor all of the elders in the room today and just reiterate how sacred elders are to the youth. And in the Cree medicine wheel, there's that direct connection from youth to elder. And there's a reason sometimes why youth don't necessarily respond well to what their parents say. Those words we don't seem to hear. But the elders have a special way of connecting, a special way where we hear your words. And a teaching that was shared with me recently is that even if you think someone doesn't hear the words that you say, the Spirit is always listening. And the Spirit will hear those words when we need them most. So thank you.
To my right?
Simgiget, Sigidum Hanak, and Organil, Wilkes, chiefs, matriarchs, ladies and gentlemen. Sa Oyaks Simgigetum Lachip, when Nilitchum, when a Nachtitum Nilitchum, Nilachipsum. I'd like to thank the chiefs of this territory, the Simgiget of this territory, for allowing us to do this very important work on this land. My traditional name is Lguwech, Wilkskufsen, Wilkswitwi, from the house of Guksen, originating in Gitsgukla. Guksen, Winswitwi, I am Guksen. As I read them, Doyasquelganism, a little Amahelst, Jepsum. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for all of the wonderful work that you do, for all of the survivors, for our communities, for our families. Stage. I'd like to thank the youth on the stage, Megan and Vanessa. I've had the privilege of meeting Megan. She's Haisla, a neighboring tribe of ours. Our communities, the Gitsan, are situated in northern British Columbia, between Hazelton and near Terrace. So the work that I do is I'm the Indian Residential School Program Manager, and we've been doing some collaboration with organizations. Our first phase was of our 10-year plan was to do some healing with our survivors. So what we did in the last 3 years was we've taken our survivors back to each of the former residential school sites to do what's called the Gukskul Otsen, which is to call back the spirit. We as Gitsan believe when my little guy was just a baby, he had fallen a few steps, down the steps, and he was crying. I went running and I was going to yank him up, and my mom stopped me and she said, no, you don't yank him up. You leave him there for a few seconds and you gently pick him up because part of his spirit might lie there. And I learned that, and I connected that with trauma-informed care. We, as Alugigit, as the First Nations people, we have our own trauma-informed care. We as Gitsan believe that if we experience trauma somewhere, part of our spirit still remains there. So it was our responsibility to go back to those sites, to retrieve our ancestors, to call them back, and to bring them back to our community. My chief, Gusen, Larry Marston, spoke to the survivors before we went to the site in Port Alberni in 2017, and he told them that their spirit is called the Naknak, and it was handed down from generation to generation. My name is Skuwech, but that name has been handed down from my ancestors through thousands of years. And he said, it's your responsibility to call back your own Naknak, to bring back a wholeness to your spirit so that you'll live a longer life. So what we've been doing, we're going into our next phase after through this healing. We're still doing some grief and loss because we've had so many losses in our communities. We've connected with some doctorate candidates at the University of Victoria, Gina Mowat and Morgan Mowat, and we're developing a curriculum that we're going to present to the up-and-coming Gitsan, the Western Gitsan High School that'll be open on 2024. To close off, to go back a little bit, to backtrack a little bit, we're to close off the Gukskut lots and to call back the spirits of the survivors and those that didn't make it out of there and those that are still surviving. The Gitsan have always done commemoration. We've done it we've told the stories, our totems tell the stories of how we came to this territory. It's a direct link of our people to the territory. It's oral history that has been affirmed in the Supreme Court of Canada through the Delgamuukh case. So we are in the process of having a totem carved by Arlene Ness, a renowned carver. And the beauty of it is she's Gitsan. Her grandmother lost a son one day, and she couldn't find him. She walked about and was yelling out for him, only to learn that he'd been taken to residential school. So she has an opportunity to tell her story. She's been consulting with our survivors to tell their story as well. We'll be raising this pole in June of this year. We've been collaborating with Poundmaker Lodge. They're on the former Edmonton residential school site. And fortunately for me, because I'm not a researcher, our friend at Poundmaker Lodge has been doing some of our research to gather statements from survivors as well as just classroom lists, because we want to have a 3-day gathering when we do our pole raising, and we want to show some of that information, classroom lists of survivors, how long they'd been there, we're hoping to have lots of support there. So I'm connecting with Southern Laleham and FNHA to bring supports for our survivors through all of this. But we're very fortunate that Siobhan, our friend Siobhan Dreelan at Poundmaker, is doing a lot of the research, and she can talk about the carriage house project that they've got a vision for. Siobhan?
We do. Hi, I'm Siobhan. So I'm traditionally from Big Stone Cree Nation, but I work in Treaty 6. So a lot of the work that I do is with the Edmonton Indian Residential School. It's a very unique school because, mind you, it was an overflow school. So a lot of students came from Gitsan territory, from Treaty 8, Treaty 11, Treaty 7, Treaty 6. And so my role is really to try to engage with communities for those whom did attend those schools. And ideally, we're trying to turn the carriage house into a historical resource center. So we're collecting a lot of data and testimonies. We've been working with Dr. Pete Dawson out of the University of Calgary, and he's also creating a curriculum for K-12 that will be more virtual. So you can kind of do a virtual of the school. So they kind of do us like 3D printing. It's quite unique. But yeah, there's a lot of progress. So I've been working with Wanda and very privileged to work with the community to collect their stories. And ideally, the Historical Resource Center would be a place for all Canadians, both Indigenous and non, to have access to those records, to have, to understand that history of that Edmonton Indian Residential School. But I guess if anyone knows or wants to help support or knows anyone who attended the Edmonton Indian Residential School, they can always reach out. And I guess my one question is, where I'm having difficulty getting information is with Health Canada through the Charles Camsell Hospital. I find that it's very difficult to get those forms of records, so if anyone has any idea or support how we can get access to those records, that would be amazing. And thank you for having me here. Hi.
I'm not sure who the camera is in the far right, but please don't do any recording until staff confirm you can be in here. Thank you. To my left, sorry.
Not on.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. So, hello. Marilyn Lee Lamouche Nitsikasan. I'm from the Whitefish Lake First Nation in Alberta, Treaty 8 territory. I am honored to be here. I've been to the last couple conferences that were held in Edmonton and Winnipeg. I just wanted to talk to the young ladies that were doing their speech earlier. Both of you really inspire me. Just the way you talk, the way you carry yourselves. I'm no longer a youth. I think I've taken the auntie status. So I have 4 daughters at home, and I honestly wish that I saw a little more of a youth crowd here, just to see, how to listen and how things are ran. And, I believe that they can learn an abundance of information from these gatherings. And even to sit with the elders, just to talk with the elders and to gather that information. Because I'm a firm believer in I guess the healing piece. And the way that we heal is to listen to the stories. What happened in residential schools. I'm a little nervous because I'm taking my master's in social work, and I just saw one of my professors here. So I hope I get an A. A+, yeah. Were your guys' palms really sweaty? Okay, I'm not alone.
I'm M&M'ing up here. Palms sweaty, arms weak, mom spaghetti. It is all happening.
I'm a singer, so I'm like, why am I so nervous?
Don't be nervous. It's a time to shine.
So yeah, to the 2 ladies that were talking earlier, I wanted to say that there's an awakening happening from nation to nation. And youth, such as yourselves, are the ones that will be leading the way. So in closing, I wanted to say, in Creek, I boomi, which means don't give up. Thank you.
Thank you. To my right.
Wait, Huwaidab, and Gadam and Squabst, and the Cookbeat for Strachan Khatlip, part of the Secwepemc Nation. My mom passed away in 1985. She went to the residential school. I carry one of her stories. It's been a difficult time for me being here. My mom told stories about, some of the young girls. They would go missing for months on end. And I guess what would happen, the priests and the nuns would hide those girls when they got pregnant, and they wouldn't see them for 9 months while they were carrying their babies. And then after that, my mom and 2 of her cousins were responsible for wrapping those babies and burning them. And so, that's the kind of data that we don't have. But I guess listening to the young lady speak, I carry that data. I carry my mom's story.
Cooksham Cookby. To my right.
Denesa Tsekesa Skesa. Male chiefs, female chiefs, children of chiefs. My name is my hereditary name given to me by my great-grandfather is Yabali. Speaking of data, my name is written down as official court records for Delgamuukw Gastewe, the Supreme Court case. It's been on my heart ever since the provincial gathering, especially talking about research and data and information, and it just troubles me. It really troubles me, especially because there's so much anger and hurt around data. And the whole concept in itself, to me, research is a colonial concept in my mind. Well, it is a colonial concept. My aunt is not here to share the anger she had where they couldn't find records of her. She was so angry, and she would say, I was there. I was there. And my auntie was one that she didn't get angry very often, but she did when she talked about that. There was also sadness when my cousins would talk about how there was no information on their dad, and their dad attended Lee Jack. To me, it's all about, fitting round pegs into square holes. This is not something that we did. It's not our custom. Our way is, as like everybody here, you are all witnesses to this gathering, and that's what we do. That's how we are. We invite people to gatherings and batlats, and we share things with them, and we honor them for being witnesses. And that's how information or special events got acknowledged, was because of everybody here being a witness to that. And we're all witnesses, and we're all walking on this journey being witnesses to what's happening in our communities. And I'm so glad Roy here, our elder Roy, because when I came back from the provincial gathering, I was asking my elders, Roy included, do we even have like a Dakel translation for research or data? And I myself am
I'm reclaiming my language, so I really appreciate the young ladies up here speaking their language. I love when people speak their language because I haven't fully reclaimed my language. What I did learn, the words I learned was, and I want Roy to speak them again. What I learned is all we have is, well, it's not all, was Nuslan. And that means in our the closest it means is we're looking, we're searching. That's the closest we get to research in our language. But I want Roy to tell you exactly how it sounds.
You can take any data, just connect Quetzalata. We're looking for the past records for residential school issues. This is what I tell them in English and translate. And for right now, I'd just like to thank them two ladies that spoke. They really twist my heart. You made my eyes sweat and with happiness. And I really thank you, because I too went to residential school for 8 years. I was shy, but like somebody said I was shy, I would never say nothing. But 74, 75, I start opening up, speaking out, letting go of the past residential school issues. Now I help people that go to residential school. When I walk the street, I see somebody walking there, good morning, sir. Yeah. Yes. You happy? Yeah. Oh, I know that person who went to residential school. I got to help him. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. You're a handsome old bugger.
Ms. Aicho, stay to my right, please.
Hello. Okay, I'm so anxious right now, so bear with me. I'm so nervous. My name is Lady Cano. I'm actually from Colombia. I'm with Muisca, Indigenous person from Colombia. Working for the Six Nations Justice Department. And I just have many thoughts in my mind right now that might be really disorganized, so hopefully you understand what I want to deliver. I'm really happy to see the successful youth that are thriving. And I thought that's something that I really would like to see for the people that I support. I work with individuals that are charged with some crimes, and all of them are really hurt people. I haven't seen even one that is thriving because of the difficulties that they are facing, because of the consequences and the trauma, intergenerational trauma they live because of the residential school system. So although the schools are closed now, we still have the child welfare system is still taking the kids. We have prisons taking the kids too, taking our people. And so I want to take this opportunity to call upon the government to fulfill their obligations and to advance the calls to justice. So just for instance, the call to justice number 31 calls the government to provide sufficient and sustainable funding to Indigenous communities to develop programs that are going to be used as an alternative to incarceration, so our kids can, stop going to jail. So who determines what is sufficient and sustainable for the communities? The communities are not being asked. And when the government asks the communities, they just check a box. They say, oh yeah, we consulted with the communities, but consultation doesn't mean consensus. So, and when we get some funding, this funding is so limited that we are not able to support the communities the way we need. So the government also keep pulling the strings because we get some funding, And then we have to follow the prescription they give to us. You can only use this funding for this. And then how we do this, how we do it. Then we had to be begging all the time for funding. It's just like begging to them for the money that belongs to the community, for the money that belongs to Indigenous peoples. Then we have to write proposal, which is a humiliating process because communities are competing against each other for money that everybody needs. So there's, like you said before, they have to walk the talk, right? So I'm hoping this can make the big change that we need and the government listen to us and create a more dignified process for the communities to get the money that is needed because we need those resources so people continue with their healing process. Sorry, I got so emotional now. So, yeah. So I think every youth and every Indigenous person deserve to thrive, not just to survive. So the government has to fulfill their obligation, and I know we have some people representing the government right now here. So I'm hoping they take this message and they listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before going to the next speaker, it's not in the program, but just given the nature of some of this discussion here, I'm going to call upon any of the cultural workers, anybody here that would like to share a song to lift everybody's spirits up again before we break for lunch. So we have about 15 more minutes of dialogue, then I'll give you time to think about that and call up a volunteer to do that. To my left, please.
Thank you. My name is Hudson, and my mother's Blackfoot. She's Piegan. And when I went down, I was in a Sundance Lodge, and I told my elders what people would be talking about here. And they sit there for a while, and they think, and they say, oh, that's some heavy work. And they start thinking again, and he said, I want you to tell them like what we saw. And you know, they had their boarding schools down there, and there's a big group of them. They all attested the same thing. They saw 5 buses come down from Saskatchewan, and loaded full of kids. They stopped in Browning, and then they kept going. A couple weeks later, 2 buses come back. Now that's what they saw. Who knows what happened south of the border, right? But what that means to me. Okay, yeah, perfect, thank you. But it's just our communities are so connected. Let us not forget about, you know, our brothers and our sisters to the north and to the south. And when we're talking about data and we're having issues with our own Canada, like our own people, how's it going to be when we have to work with the Americans and with their federal system? And we need to start thinking about that because we need to know where those 3 buses went. That's just one example. And they have many more about a very active trafficking trade that occurred. So these are things that we have to start understanding. And as well, I know of also the Hawaiians were being sent up, and they were also being sent to residential schools in British Columbia. So this is, it's just, I don't know, I really needed to raise that awareness. And I very much, I thank you for your time and for allowing me to speak here. And I'm down here on behalf of Lakwalams, and that's Port Simpson. And I just, yeah, I really appreciate the time and the talk and everybody here. So thank you.
Masi. Are you two the same? Are you together? Okay, we'll see you on my left.
Amagan Flak, Alulal, Diwayu, Leskik Dipdegu, Lachwalams, Diwawaku, Lachain, Diwalzagu, Shimshan Nuyu. Good morning. My Shimshan name is Alulal. My English name is Valley Knot. I'm an eagle from Lakwalams, but I live in Prince Rupert, and I am Shimshan. And I just wanted to stand up here, first and foremost, to bring Smaliach to the floor and raise my hands to the panel. You guys did such an amazing job of presenting yourselves and holding yourselves in a good way, just like everyone else has said, but that data, what we're considering data, and how we receive it and how we hold it in a good way and how we move it forward. And I also want to thank the gentleman, the OCAP. We need to know that stuff, and we also have to bring it. We have to know it. We have to absorb it. We have to be able to unpack it, and we also have to apply it to our adao and our iao. And in my language, that is our law, and that is our history, our stories. So those all matter, and I am truly inspired by the resilience in this room. So doikset nisam, thank you all so much. Thank you.
HK? Just before going to my right, we got two speakers at my right. There might be enough time for one more. Just to give you a heads up, we will be winding down shortly. To my right.
My community is Akwesasne. It's called Mohawk Nation. But with the number of marijuana dispensaries in our community now, I always refer to it as a Stone Nation. But from what I hear from other people here, it's capitalism just running wild in our communities. Anyway, we got short time. I just wanted to bring up, first I'd like to give gratitude over to Aaron, Vanessa, and Megan. The way you were talking, and especially Aaron, you talked about getting outside the normal and using our technical abilities to actually revolutionize how we're going to move forward without staying in the rigid forms. But I keep hearing repeatedly over, since I've been here, there's not enough money. Yet there's legislation, international legislation, federal legislation, both in the United States and Canada, and provincial legislation, which reinforces our position as Aboriginal people in this country of North America, that we, in our traditional territories, have the resources to fund what we have to do. And we're not tapping into that. We're following the conforms and the rigid boundaries that Canada or any other government sets up, and we follow that. And then today, in the last few days, everybody's talking about get out of that situation. And we have the resources within our own territories to do it. I worked in BC, all along the coast in the 90s with many of you people. I negotiated contracts with the extraction companies to ensure that the money made from the resource did not go only into the extraction company. It went back into the community, back into education, back into strengthening who you are as a people. I worked in Alberta for 15 years doing the same kind of work with the Blackfeet, the Stonies, the Cree, the Métis. And through that, working with major extraction companies, I burned out because they don't want to listen. And the only thing that kept me going were the elders standing up and say, go to the sweat, go do a vision quest, continue burning tobacco or sage, using the cedar to purify yourself. I grew up at 18 in a family that my father was a residential school. He came home and had military orders for us, how to sit, how to eat. If we weren't sitting right at the table, he would come over and slap us. And we couldn't understand that. Then he would send us to church, and at church, the people would condemn us for speaking their languages. Then I went to the Longhouse, our traditional form, and it was entirely a whole different ballgame. Nobody yelled. There was an expression of gratitude, love, affection. People were poor, and yet they gave away. And then when I went to the church, everything was, no, this is mine. Get your own. So I grew up, I left Akwesasne when I was 18, and I went to Alcatraz Island with a bunch of activists. And we took over that island. For the main purpose is to build an educational institute so we could reinforce our languages and our cultures among the people. I hung with Dennis Banks and Russell Means, and other people like Ernie Benedict, and our own people like Leon Shenandoah, John Mohawk, Warren Lyons, Laurie Colley, Levi General. These were all people who moved forward in the 70s, 80s to push forward our languages and our cultures so that we would always be who we are as Oklahoma people. And then I sit here and I listen to what goes on here, and it's like we're reaching out for, oh, we need funding for this, we need funding for that, and yet right in our backyard we have the sources. And our leadership has to step forward, and the people in our communities have to step forward and tell leadership, get moving, stop talking, get into action, just like these three individuals said this morning. I didn't come here to get up and talk, but it just got me going. You know, I came here to listen and to do what the elders have always told me. Use your mind, your eyes, and your heart to listen and to take it in. But everything I hear, it just stirs me up. One side says, okay, we have all our processes which tell us to be peaceful people and share. Then the other side says, get up and let's do something. So anyway, those are my words, and I thank the three who were up there and the other speakers yesterday who spoke of independent, of being sovereign, of actually exercising what sovereignty is. And I thank those people for doing that. Yeah, go.
Next step, thank you. Just before going to our next speaker, I need to say this as respectfully and humbly as I can. Out of respect for everybody in this room, will you please pick up your phones and make sure it's on silent or vibrate? We shouldn't be hearing phones ringing when there's such important messages being shared with all of you. I say that as respectfully as I can, please. To my right.
Thank you. Am I being treated differently again? Kuyanaming. Ila inugapta. Inuin kapsikiatek vanitun amisuluang nitun. Inugapta. Inunakpun. Kitu mangapta. Annerelakpun. Nakinga mga apta annerelakpun. Sibulak tibun taikwa aksaorsuting maunga tikikuilaw matata maunga lakpon. Taikwa lu sibulak tabun aksaok palaokton. Aksaok palaokton. Aksaok alo asuting kuwiasuk palaokton. Sibulak tikilaw tabun ati puyok taililabun. Tungavi up to you. I'm Lavinia Brown. Inuktitut name is Nokadlang. Do you want to know what Nokadlang means? It's an ancient word. Name means spider web. I could put you all in my spider web. That's how much power I have. Just kidding. I have no power. I don't want power. In Inuktitut, I have just referred to as Inuit Nation. we are proud people, and we want to keep our culture, our language, anything about Inuit, and we can't forget where we come from. Any culture in the world, be proud of your own culture. There's good and bad in every culture. My culture, our Inuit people, ancestors, they worked very, very hard. Very hard. Very harsh weather that they lived in. Even though they had hard times, they had good times too. Our ancestors were very grateful. You know how I know? I look at pictures, I study the history, what's written, what's being told to me in oral history. Maybe 200-300 years ago, first contact with the European. They came by ship, come to trade with the Inuit people. The Inuit people clothed them with skin and fur. Our ancestors didn't just let them freeze to death. We live in below zero, like 50, 60 below zero. They looked after them, and we have pictures of proof that they look very nice. That's how they were in the earlier contact. But I don't know what happened down the road, because it sure isn't like that anymore. I have ancestries. My grandparents were Piu Inuk. No blood, no mixed blood. When I was born, I was called half-breed. I didn't know nothing. When the lawyer and us were going through the settlement for residential school, I saw my records. It had HB, and I didn't understand what HB meant, so I asked the lawyer, what does HB mean? Do you see missing? I thought they were referring to Hudson Bay Company. But it wasn't. So the lawyer sitting across from me, and he said, half-breed. He said, oh. He said, by the way, that's discriminatory. I had no idea. And yet he didn't help further, and I don't know anything about law. So it just stalled there. Nothing was done. So we're in residential school, and we had interviews, some of us survivors. It became very stressful for me. And I'm saying, should I talk about it or just be quiet? But I talked about it. When I was being interviewed, I was being very truthful. The part that bothered me most was my older sister sitting, I have a picture in my cell phone of that, in the residential school, sitting there, and the nun sitting beside my sister, my older sister. She's there with a headband. Yes, a headband. And the sister saying, she's Indian. She's Indian. Yeah. We didn't know nothing about Indians. We never heard of them, and can you hear me? Oh, okay. We never heard any such term. So we thought, all the siblings and all my school chums, we thought that was her new name. We started calling her Indian. No disrespect to any Indian. We didn't know nothing about that. And then years down the road, I went away to go to school again to get higher education in Churchill, Manitoba at 13 years old. And I barely spoke English yet. And I had lots of friends, and we started having picture shows, like theaters, from downtown to camp where the military was. And they're having cowboys and Indians. And that's when I learned the term Indians. And yet downtown I went to school with Cree people and Dene people. They were my best friends. When I saw and heard what the Indian meant, it was really hurtful. Hurtful because they used another nation against my nation, my own sister. Yeah, to divide us again. It wasn't her name. It was to hurt us. To hurt us. I'm not going to say sorry. I have nothing to be sorry for. The only regrets I have is the pain. There's lots of history that we don't talk about. How could we? They're too painful. We had residential school too in Nunavut, where I come from. I'm a product of that. Yeah. As I heard the young girls and the young guys speak, thank you. I find we have hope. Young people, I support you. I'm an elder. We have that Inuit too. In Inuit, they're achieving their goals. They have their own business. They're doing well. And I really, really, really support them that they go further and further. I'm really proud of the young people. Very proud. I'm so proud of the young people because they go to secondary education in South, like to Montreal, Ottawa, Edmonton, Winnipeg, probably here too, because I have family here that live here, and there's about 100 of them. They stretch through Victoria Island, and there's my two nieces. Could you stand up, Joan and Shannon? And my sister-in-law had a business meeting, so she left. She's 89 years old. She's more active than me, and she was born up in Nunavut and lived out on the land with her parents. Nothing was there, no houses. So we had quite an experience last night. Us three little Inuit. Martha, Tagak over here, and some of our staff from National Center for Truth and Recreation, they had gone for supper 2 nights before that to a Chinese restaurant with her. So here we are today. We have technology that have information right away. I love Facebook better than the phone. The phone will ring and ring, no answer. Finally, rings. If you speak English, press 1. If you know the extension number, press it now. Who have time? With Facebook, you can reach other countries instantly. As I have relatives in the United States, I have relatives everywhere. I can message them, text them. That's why I like Facebook. So last night, here we have technology that's really readily available for us. You know, she was in a restaurant, Chinese restaurant, with Storm and a few other staff. And so what did we do? We're such Inuit people, tolerant, and I saw the gentleman over there on Mike there. I met him. I forgot his name. Good speaker. He's leaning down really low, really low, very tolerant. And I said to my mind, Inuk person, that's what we do. We tolerate everything and fix it after. So anyway, last night, we must have walked 10 blocks. We didn't even Google the address. Inuit. So we're going to find it ourselves by walking. And 3 of us, my sister-in-law was stronger than me. She's better fit than me, and, physically, mentally, and everything else, she's fit. Here's me dragging along behind. Every once in a while, the 2 girls that I'm with, they would ask, Lavinia, are you okay? Oh, yes, I'm okay. We're carrying umbrella too because it was raining. Yeah, I'm okay. I'll catch up. Yeah, I'm okay, I would say. And here my slippers are wet. Before we left, she asked, is that what you're going to wear? Oh, yeah. Tolerant. So anyway, we walked about 10 blocks around and around, and we saw the 2 towels. And she said, there it is. We didn't find the address physically, written or how it's spelled, nothing like that. We went physically with our mind. And we got there, and just before we got there, we didn't know. It was so close. She saw a restaurant that was almost like Chinese food. What was that food? We ate there, little restaurant. It was almost like Chinese food. So we ordered a taxi this time. The lady that works there was very friendly. She said, oh, you're just 2 minutes away from where you live, 2 minutes away, and we're going to take a taxi now. So that was our experience. Anyway, come and visit Nunavut. We have a lot of people that are welcoming, and they always want you to eat. So don't say no, even if you're full. Eat. Thank you.
Haichka, thank you, Lavinia. What a great way to end off before lunch. My request for a volunteer to come forward and lift our spirits in a good way has been answered by Wendell Williams from Six Nations. I'll invite you up here, CM.